Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to my introductory lecture for IS430 in the summer of 2022. In the current semester, I'm teaching two sections of IS430. The A section meets on Thursday evenings online, and the B section meets on Wednesday mornings online. And apart from the fact that they meet at different times, they're exactly the same. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the lecture today is I'm going to go through our Canvas site. I'm going to go through our syllabus. I'm going to go through our weekly schedule, but I'm only going to go through those for the A section. Okay, now the same things for the B section are a mirror of what those documents or sites are for the A section. Okay, so the only thing that's going to be different are the times the things are going to meet. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get started by looking at the Canvas site. Okay, so this is a Canvas site for the A section, and we're on the home page. There's a couple of ways that we organize home pages for Canvas at the iSchool. I choose to do it as one of these module pages. So it might look a little different than what you're used to, but all the information's here. So the first module is recent announcement. So it's going to have the three most recent announcements that have been made. Okay, and as you can see, I've already made three. And then down the first of the real modules is kind of identifying information about the course. So there's a title here that says what the number and the section of the course are and the semester, and the course title of Foundations of Information Processing, and that it meets on Thursday evenings online. Okay. Again, if we were on the site for the B section, it would say the B section, it would say it meets on Wednesday mornings online. Okay. Okay, so this module or section has kind of overview and information, quick access information for the course, and we'll come back and walk through it in a minute. Then there's a contact us. This is information about how to get in touch with me or the TA for this course. Okay. The next thing is a list of the assignments and the activities that you're able to click on to submit them. There's typically one or more coding assignments for each of the weeks. They're due on Tuesday evening at 11:55 p.m. All right. And the final assignment is the final project. The final project is only for people who are taking the course for 4 credits, which is the way I recommend that you do it. But if you're a person for whom it makes sense to take a course for 2 credits, then you won't be submitting the final project. And the last thing I have on the page here are the assignment solutions. And as you can see, they're not published yet. If we were to look at the student view instead of the instructor view, you wouldn't even see these. But what I'm going to do is right before class, on the day of our class, I'm going to turn these on. And I'm going to have you download them, and we're going to talk about the solutions in class. Okay? So they're all here. They're just not published yet. Okay? So that's the information here in the Canvas site. Let's look at this top module. Okay? We have a link to the syllabus. Okay? And if you click on here and you click again, it will load up the syllabus, and we'll come back to talk about the syllabus in a couple of minutes. Okay. There's a link to the weekly schedule. Okay, the weekly schedule is essentially where all the content is for the course. All right. There is a page for each week of the semester, and you go there and you can see what the meetings are that we're having and what you have to hand in and what you have to read and all that kind of stuff. And we'll go over that in a couple minutes as well. Okay? All right. The next section has a name in all caps, so I'm kind of shouting at you. Please set your preferred name using the university self-service application. So if you go here, there's a page. It explains what I'm talking about, and there's a link to a place where you can go to for help. And what this allows you to do is to set your name in university systems, including Canvas and Zoom, such that when you come to class, the name that's going to appear is the preferred name that you'd like us to use to call you by in class. Okay, so I'd like you to do this before we meet for the first time. If you miss that, well, then do it shortly after. Okay? It really helps. Getting help and iSchool quick links. This is a page put together by the people at iSchool ITD and the iSchool Help Desk, and these are sort of interesting resources for your help. Okay, among them is a link to the help desk, the iSchool help desk, and Tech Chat, which is a place where you can get help during classes. Like one scenario that happens is that we're having a class and all of a sudden your connection to Zoom is not working and you don't know how to get it to work and you need help, and maybe you call the help desk and they're not answering because it's 7 o'clock at night. Well, Tech Chat is a way to connect with whoever is essentially on duty for the help desk and ITD during these evening classes. Okay? Open discussion forum. Okay? We're going to have an open discussion forum. What I really like to do is I'd like to have our discussions in class. Okay? And, but sometimes students like to communicate in using a forum application. So I have put this here for you folks to communicate with each other. The TA and I will monitor it from time to time, but this is primarily the way that you communicate with each other regarding things that interest you. Okay? If you need help from me or from the TA, don't use this to get help from us. We have this thing called the service desk, which we'll see in a minute, and that's the way to get help from us. Okay? Okay, and then last but not least is a link to the Zoom meetings. Okay, so there's a link here for every class session and each online lab session. Okay, and as you can see, the class sessions here are on Thursdays at 6 p.m. If we were in the other site, the one for the B section, well, they would be on Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. And then the lab sessions are on Mondays at 6 p.m. But if we were in the other site for the B section, the lab sessions are on Mondays at 4 p.m. Okay. That's where you can find the link to connect to the sessions via Zoom. Okay, contact us. Instructor and TA details. Okay, so for the A section, of course, I'm the instructor for both the A and the B section. Okay, so that's me. The TA for the A section is Esther Sao, and the TA for the B section is Chen Yu Zhao. Okay, and so if you were on this page for the B section, you would see the proper TA. Okay. Now, the way to contact us is not through email. So we don't have our emails here. We have this kind of issue tracking help desk kind of system that we call the service desk system. And that's a way to contact us. It works as a way for us to give you the kind of responsiveness that we would like you to have. Whereas if you send me emails, you're pretty well guaranteed that I'm going to lose them. Okay? Okay. Then there is a section using the service desk for this course. Okay. And again, the service desk is a ticket system. So when you need help with something, or you have a question, or you're worried about something, then you just open a ticket, and then we respond. And if you need more help, then you post that ticket again, and we keep the ticket going until you're satisfied that you have all the help you need, in which case you close the ticket. Okay. There's a link here to the actual, there's a separate service desk for the A section, and there's a separate one for the B section. And so this link is to the section that you're going to be using for your section. So if I click on this, I'm going to the page for the A section only. If we had been in the B Canvas site, we would have gone to the link for the B section only. Okay. Now, unless you've been on one of my courses before, okay, and you've already used this system with me, you won't be known to the system, in which case you're going to have to set up an account. Okay, now how do you do all that stuff? And how do you use the system? Yet I just want to point out that I came right to the page where you can open a ticket because I'm already logged in. I'm usually, if I'm online, I'm usually logged in. Okay. All right. So how do you find out more? Well, there's a page. Here's an introduction page. You can go to that. Okay, and it's a page that kind of explains the system and the rationale for it and how to get started. And there's actually a list of the 4 service desks that I have up for the summer. There's the one for the A section, the one for the B section. There's one for former students to ask me for recommendations. And then there's one for people who need something else, something other. Okay. So I'm thinking that typically you're going to just use the link for your section, which of course is that link that we just saw up here. Okay. Make sure that you're on the right service desk project. Again, when you finally get in, it's going to say this is for, and it's going to have either A section or B section up here. And if you're on the A section, use the one for the A section. If you're on the B section, use the one for the B section. Okay? Now, how do you use all this kind of stuff? Well, apart from that introduction, I've got some videos that you can play. And the primary one is this one called How to Use the Service Desk for This Course. Okay, and it's going to show you how to use the system. One of the things that I ask each of the students to do during week 1 and 2 of the course is to get set up on the service desk system and to send a greetings post to the service desk, to open a ticket whose summary line is greetings. Okay, why do I do this? Well, I do this because if you wait until you have a problem that you need help with to get set up on the service desk, you won't have the patience for that process. Okay, it's better that you already know that you are set up and you can use it and all that stuff. And it turns out that I give you some participation points for doing that, and that works real well for everybody. Okay. All right. So that's the kind of the general stuff. 2 things that we're going to need to do. We're going to need to look at the weekly schedule, and we're going to need to look at the course syllabus. So let's start with the weekly schedule, which has a link to the syllabus on it. Okay, so here we are. This is the top level page of the weekly schedule for the A section. You can see up here, meets Thursday evenings online. And even though it might not be completely obvious, the way that you get to the individual weekly schedule pages is you click on the week number. Okay, that's where the link is. So if we want to go to week 1, we click on the 1. Okay. And the organization of the page it shows everything that we're doing for the week. Okay. And there's even some notes if there's something that we normally do on a certain day. If we're not doing it that week, there's a schedule note that says, well, we're not doing it that day and why. Okay. So let's look at the schedule for week 1. Okay. We have a schedule note for Monday that says that ordinarily on Monday evening we would have a lab session for Schedule A, for Section A, But because it's the first week of the semester and there's nothing to really to go over, we're not having it. Okay. Um, on Tuesdays, at the very end of the day, that's going to be when you're handing in your work from the assignment that we gave you last week. I used to have people hand that in on Sunday night, and I'm kind of experimenting a bit in the summer here with moving that to Tuesday night because the classes are not until Wednesday and Thursday. And that gives us a chance to have a lab on Monday and then a hand in on Tuesday night. Okay, so this is where you're going to be handing in the work from the week before. Okay, and the only thing that you need to concern yourself with handing in or getting done in week one is here's a reminder that during the first 2 weeks of the course, I want you to post one time a greetings ticket to the service desk. Okay, you can do it in week one, you can do it in week two. I've got a copy of this under the weekly assignments for week two. Okay, and then the class that we have for the week, in this case, because it's the A section, it's meeting on Thursday evening. Okay, if we were on the weekly schedule for the B section, you would see it be on Wednesday morning. Okay, there's each of the sections has its own weekly schedule site. Okay, just like it has its own Canvas site. Okay. And we have a list of the topics that we're going to cover, the required readings. In this case, it's the syllabus and the roadmap. I'm going to be going over both of those in this lecture that you're listening to right now. Required recordings. The first of these, I hope you've already played. Okay, it's tips on how to play my videos, and the short version is you probably figured out by now I talk kind of slowly, and there's a reason for that, and there's ways to speed me up to just the right speed for you, and that's what I address in the tips video. So please play that early on. And then, of course, here we have a placeholder for the lecture that I'm recording right now. Okay. And by the time you're listening to this, you'll have already clicked on the link that will be there by the time you get there. Okay. And then in class, during the first week, one of the major things that we're going to do is we're going to introduce ourselves, okay, and we're going to talk about what program we're in, if any program. We're going to talk about what kind of work we do, including work in the home. Okay, we're going to talk about whether we've worked with programming before, and Python in particular, and whether we've worked with any of the tools that we're going to be using. Okay, that gives me an opportunity to get a real feel for the background of the students in the class. It also gives that to you. I think we get a wide variety of students, some who've already done some programming, some who might even be using, say, Python on the job, but never really formally learned it. You know, they have, they kind of like do on the job getting by. And then we have, some people who have never programmed a lick in their life, don't even know how to program their DVR or their microwave oven. Okay, we get a wide range of people, and we can accommodate all of you. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing in the first week. So this is how the schedule goes. I'll come back and go over some more of it in a bit. Okay, but before I do that, let's take a look at a couple other documents that are important. The first is this course roadmap, and it's a summary of the schedule. Okay, and so it's probably best just to take a look at this. So there are 12 weeks in the semester. There's officially a 13th, but it's degree conferral day or something like that. There's nothing to be done in 13, so I didn't list it here. Okay. This is a short semester, right? I teach this course in the spring and the fall, and in a 16-week semester. We usually take 1 week off, so there are 15 real weeks, okay, as compared to 12. So we're short by 3 weeks here, and that means we have to double up on some things, right? So it turns out that what we've doubled up on is in week 2, we're going to be covering chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Zell textbook. Whereas when I teach this during the fall and the spring, I do 3 as a week all by itself. So we save a week there by doubling up. And then in week 8, we're covering Severance chapter 11 and Zell chapter 9 in 1 week. And in the spring and the fall, we do that in 2. And then here, in terms of working on things that you have to hand in, we've allocated the last 2 weeks for you to work on the final project and not have to be working on some assignment. And in the longer format of the semester, we give you 3 weeks for that. Okay, so this isn't the kind of course where we're taking 16 weeks and we're squeezing it into 8. Okay, so it does have a reasonable pace that I think is well matched to the learning needs for this kind of activity, right? But there are a couple of weeks that are really busy, okay? And week 2 is going to be super busy, okay? In fact, I'm going to tell you that I want you to kind of cheat ahead and get started on it early. And then week 8 is going to be really busy too. Okay, and there's some other weeks that are pretty jam-packed. Week 3, when we're working on Zell chapter 5, that's a real big chapter. Week 6, when we're working on Zell chapter 8, that's a real big chapter again. So, but we'll be doing it in kind of normal time. Okay, so it's an accelerated course. It's very doable. I'll warn you when we're having a tough week, but that's how we're doing it. It's all very achievable. The way that we organize the week is like this, okay? The weekly assignments, the assignments for the chapters that we covered the week before are due on Tuesday night at 11:55. Okay. Then when we get to class, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to review the solutions and talk about them. See if we can get some ideas about maybe some different ways we could have solved that. Okay. So the first up to hour of class is going to be talking about the material from last week in light of the experience that you've had in actually doing that work. Okay. And then we're going to move into the new material. Okay. Um, so this readings, lectures, and discussions column of this roadmap, this has kind of the new material that we're going to cover for the week. Now we cover only the introduction and and the computer setup in week 1, and we cover only working on the final projects in weeks 11 and 12. But apart from that, it's a list of the new material that we're doing for the week. The other thing that we do is we have a lab day. Okay, so we have an optional 1-hour online lab. Okay. And the lab day would have been Monday for all the weeks except that 2 of those weeks, Monday is a holiday. Okay. So for week 1, we're not going to have the lab day because we don't have anything to hand in. Okay. In week 2, it's on Monday. In week 3, it's on Tuesday. In week 4, we're back to Monday. It stays that way until we get to week 8. That's the week 3 is the Memorial Day holiday. The week 8 is the Independence Day holiday, and those are on Tuesday. Okay, those are a 1-hour session where I primarily help you guys with the work that you're doing for the assignments that you have to hand in on Tuesday, right? So what I usually say is that before we get to lab time, try to do the work on your own, and if you're stuck, well, you have the lab to come to. And people come to lab, we do it on a first come, first served kind of basis. There's some people who come to lab just to kind of hang out, to see what are people having trouble with, what's Kevin saying, those kinds of things. And if one thing that happens from time to time is that there'll be some program that I can't figure out why it doesn't work, and one of the students at the lab will say, I think the problem's on line number 43, and I say, oh, tell us more. Then they go, and then we look, and it turns out it's on line number 43. So it does have a lab and a little bit of a collaboration kind of quality. Okay, so the lab times for this A section are Monday evenings at 6 p.m. The lab times for the B section are Monday afternoons at 4. They're an hour long. In those 2 special weeks, they're going to be on Tuesday instead of Monday because I can't have any kind of class thing on a campus holiday. And those are both campus-wide holidays. Okay. Now, the other thing that I do is at the end of every class session, I schedule them for 2 hours, right? I typically have some time left over to have some more lab time, right? So, because I pre-recorded the lectures, right? There's no time that's really going into lectures. So we come in and we review the work that we did from last week. And then when we wrap up that, I usually give some highlights of the new material, but I don't lecture on it because that's all pre-recorded. And of course, I take questions on the new material, and then we break it into lab. Okay? So the amount of time left over for lab is usually a half hour at least. Okay? And often I'm able to stay. So if it turns out there's a lot of people who started their work on their hand-in assignments early, and they already have questions, well, I can usually hang around for a full hour. Okay? So there really are two opportunities to get help with your assignments. One at the end of class, and then the other one on the following Monday, or in these two cases, Tuesday. The other thing that we show here is um, the work that we cover in, say, week 2 is what we hand in week 3. And what we cover in week 3 is what we hand in week 4. And we not only hand it in, we discuss it in the beginning of class. So I put this together because this is the same information that's in the weekly schedule, but it's hard to see the big picture, hence the roadmap. Okay. Okay, so that's the roadmap. Let's talk about the syllabus. Okay. Okay, can I make this a little bigger? Yeah, I can. Okay, so the syllabus is long. Okay, it's now 14 pages long. I think when I started to teach this course about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, it's hard to remember. I think it was about 10 pages long. And what's happened over the time is that, questions of problems have come up with just a handful of people. And, things that I thought really didn't need explaining about, what the rules are for grading, or what the rules are for doing your work independently and not copying. It turns out that not everybody understands that. 92% or 97% of people do. Okay, but the fact is that the syllabus is kind of like a contract between the instructor and the students. And what happens is contracts never get shorter, they only get longer. And I apologize for that, okay? But it's just the way of the world, okay? So if you're reading through this and you go, this is kind of legalistic and long-winded, well, it probably is. And again, it wasn't quite so legalistic or long-winded 5 years ago, but time marches on. Okay? So let's see what we have. I'll try not to go through every little bit. The title, Foundations of Information Processing. That's kind of a political title, right? There was a time when people thought that computer programming ought to be taught at over at the computer science department, and so it was easier to come up with a title that kind of wasn't computer programming and kind of showed an information science point of view. But this is the first course in programming using Python. Okay? We're in the summer of 2022. This is the one that we're looking at is the syllabus for the A section. The B section is very similar. In fact, I handed out a copy in which I hadn't actually changed enough of the things initially, and I've now corrected that. I'm the instructor for both of the sections. For the A section, the TA is Esther Chow, and for the B section, the TA is Chen Yu Jiao. Okay. Uh, it's possible to enroll in this course for 4 or 2 credits. Okay. I recommend that you take it for 4. Okay. If you take it for 2, you don't have to do the final project, but the final project is not 50% of the work. Um, it's more like 20% of the work, right? 22% of the work. Okay. So the only reason it makes sense to take this for 2 credits, in my mind, is if you're trying to conserve your credits or your funds. Okay. And you can't kind of learn programming. You have to learn all this stuff to know programming, right? You can't take like the first half of the topics and you know half of programming. You definitely don't want to do that. So again, the difference operationally is that if you've taken it for 2, you don't do the final project. Okay. If you think that you want to change from 2 to 4, 4 to 2, I've got no problem with you doing that. Just don't wait to do it until the end of the semester when it's too late to turn in the forms. And you do the forms with your advisor, and I typically have to sign off on them. And I typically do. Okay. And I've told you what I prefer, what I would do. I would take it for 4. Your mileage may vary, though. Regular class sessions are going to be online for the A sections. That's going to be Thursday evening from 6 to 8. For the B section, it's going to be Wednesday morning from 9:30 to 11:30. Okay? Please use a headset. Okay? The way that you find the link to log into Zoom is go to the Canvas page, click on the link in the navigation panel for I think it says Zoom meeting instead of meetings. I don't know who did that, but it would make sense. In my mind, I have said meetings. And the link that you're looking for is usually the top one. Okay. I talked about the lab sessions. Okay. So you get the idea, I hope, about that. I'm not going to repeat that. Again, I usually use about the last half hour-ish of class as an extra lab time. Okay. And again, if it takes longer than that, I can usually hang around. And then, the dedicated online lab is a 1 hour time. And generally, they're going to be on Monday. Okay. And for this A section, they'll be from 6 to 7 in the evening. And for the B section, they'll be from 4 to 5 in the afternoon. And if anybody needs to come to the other one, we can get you into it. Okay? You have the problem that we need to get you linked up with the Zoom session. But contact me, and I'll probably point you to the help desk, and we'll find a way to work it out. Okay? What's next? Office hours. I don't have conventional office hours, okay? In terms of helping you, I do that during the lab times and using the service desk. But if you need to meet with me individually, then just open a ticket on the service desk. It says that you need an individual meeting. Typically, that might be to discuss something confidential, right? Which is kind of hard to do during lab time. And we'll set something up on Zoom. Okay. If you're going to contact me or the TA, use the service desk. Here's another link to the proper place. The links are not working right here, but this is a proper link in the PDF. and this is a link to the introduction. And I give you the number of my cell phone here in case everything goes totally berserk and you can't find a way to contact me. Now, I've got to tell you that I'm really no better at answering my phone or my text than I am at answering my email. So the service desk is really the best thing to use, but I give you this in case of emergency. The description of the course, I'm going to leave this for you to read. The catalog description, I think, is kind of colored by the the catalog description, I think, is pretty general. The course description is more specific, okay? And this is the first course in computer programming using Python. The overall goal is to develop an information processing perspective of the world. Objectives are to gain a broad introduction to computer programming, etc., to develop a working proficiency in a programming language. We're going to be using Python 3 with hands-on, lots of hands-on assignments. This is kind of an art, right? This is like learning to paint, learning to bake, learning to cook in the kitchen, learning to repair your automobile. Okay. You can read about it forever and not have learned really anything useful at all. Okay. Most of the learning you're going to do is by doing and then talking about how that went. And we're going to be doing a lot of both. Okay. And the last thing here, to nurture the ability to detect opportunities to apply programming in new scenarios, I begin the course by telling you that I'm pretty lazy at doing work on the computer. Like somebody gives me some kind of job and they say, I'd like you to organize this with an Excel spreadsheet. That sounds like way too much pointing and clicking to me. Or somebody gives me something. Any job that somebody gives to me with information where they want me to do, organizing or sorting or selecting or manipulating, my first thought is I'm going to write a program to do it. Okay? And what I'm hoping is that when you leave here, you're going to think the same way. Okay? And have the confidence to do it. The course topics are sort of a list of the things that we cover chapter by chapter. Learning outcomes, understanding the role that programming plays in information processing and management, identify opportunities for information worker to solve everyday problems using programming. That's kind of what I just talked about. We want you to design, code, and test procedural programs in Python that make use of object-oriented classes provided by others. So most of the work that you're going to do are going to be using Python classes that come already baked into Python, or classes that I give you. The next to the last of the units that we're going to cover how to create a custom object-oriented class in Python. And then the tool that we're going to be using is called Pycharm Professional, and we're going to expect you to be able to use that competently. And there are a handful of these integrated development environments referred to as IDEs. And once you've learned one, it's pretty easy to learn the rest. So Pycharm Professional is one that we're going to use. The textbook, the main text is the Zell book, um, Python Programming and Introduction to Computer Science, third edition. It's a great book. It's not perfect, okay, but there's a lot of good stuff in it, and I supplement it a lot. Um, the the other book, the Severance book, we use for two. First of all, if you haven't bought your books yet, buy a copy of the Zell book. The Severance book is available in several electronic formats that are available for free, and you can buy a physical copy. Um, there's no real reason to do it though. The Severance book we use for kind of a second source, especially for new programmers. If you read through things in the Zell book and it's like, I wish this were a little clearer, I've got a second set of optional readings in Severance for you to read through, see if that helps. Okay. And then there are two of the chapters that we don't do the chapter in Zell for various reasons. I prefer the chapter in Severance, so we use those instead. Technology requirements, you're going to need a computer, okay? Uh, Most people use a laptop, but some people do use their desktop. Um, um, Most people use either Windows 10 or a recent release of Mac OS. There are some people who have used Windows 11. I'm not real good at supporting that yet, but we haven't run into trouble with that, so I think we're kind of in the clear with that. Um, the tools that we're going to be using run on Linux, right? But my Linux experience is all server based and not client based. So um, if you're going to do this on Linux, you're going to have to do a lot of the support yourself. If you get into trouble, I can commiserate with you and say, yeah, did you check here? Did you check there? But the fact is, I've never been through having to solve the problems on that platform. Whereas on the Mac, which I have, or on Windows 10, which a lot of my students have had, we seem to be able to get through all the problems. Okay? The two things that we're going to install, one is the Anaconda platform, and the other one is Pycharm, which is an IDE, an integrated development environment for Python. And we're going to use Pycharm Professional so that we're all on the same version. And if you look at the links I have in the weekly schedule, I show you how to get that for free because we're at the university. Okay. Now, I've had people in the past that goes, well, I've already used the educational version of Pycharm. I think I'll use that. The last assignment that we do doesn't work on the educational version or the community version. It only works on the professional version. So go ahead and get a free copy of that and install that. Okay? If any of the tools that we're using is unsuitable for you because you are otherly abled, okay, contact me. We'll find a tool set for you to use. Okay, we always find a way to solve all those ability and sensibility related product issues. The course schedule is in the weekly schedule. Again, here, there's the link to that. That link actually worked. So if you're in the syllabus for the A section, it goes to the schedule for A. I didn't mean to do that. Where am I? I didn't want to do that either. That was interesting. Let me come back. Oh, I was in the schedule. I was in the schedule. I say I was in the schedule in week 1, and then I went to the syllabus. I fooled myself. Sorry about that. Okay. So generally speaking, things will change in the weekly schedule throughout the semester. I have a bunch of documents that I've promised you. They have a post by date. When I post them, I'll send announcements to say that they're available. Anything, I don't change things unreasonably, but there are things that change. There are things that get updated, and when I do that, I usually send you an announcement. The elements of the course. First of all, we've got readings. Okay. I think the readings in this course are pretty good. Okay. Most of the required readings are in the Zell book. Most of the recommended ones are in the Severance book. So we've got that. Then we've got lecture videos. Okay. I'll do some highlights when we're in class, but I'm not going to lecture in class. So I typically cover the material that was in the book, but I cover some other things and I add a lot of commentary. Okay? Now, are you going to play all the lectures in there entirely and read all the readings? This is a graduate course. You're going to have to decide. Okay? I'm going to leave it to you to sample all this content and to figure out what's the most effective mix for you. Okay? Depending upon how new of a programmer you are, what kind of learner you are, all those things. Okay? And if you've got some questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Tutorial videos. There are two kinds. Type 1, we're installing a product and configuring it. Anaconda, Pycharm, those kinds of things. Okay. Type 2, for most of the coding assignments that you get, and there's at least one per average week, for most of the exercises, I've done a tutorial video in which I show me writing a program to solve a similar problem, but not the exact one that you're going to do. Okay? So I think they're worth a play. Okay? A lot of my teaching goes on in these tutorial videos, so I recommend that you play them. The coding assignments are due once a week. There are 2 weeks in which we have more than one. The weeks where I kind of doubled and tripled up the assignments. Again, most of them have a tutorial video available for you to play, in which you can actually see me demonstrating the skill before you have to go do it yourself. Okay? An important thing about the coding assignments is the grading is such that you're going to do best if you make a good faith effort on all of the regular parts of the assignment before the deadline. Okay? So when we get down to grading, I'll show you what my deal is for these. But essentially, if you make, there's always Typically, once we get rolling along, we've got something like three regular exercises and one challenge. Okay, and um, uh, if you make a good faith effort on all the regular exercises, and that you show that you worked on it and you made a good faith effort to solve it, there's a minimum score that you'll get on the assignment, whereas you follow some other directions, you'll get at least an 85. Okay, so there's no reason, unless you've got some unusual circumstances, to hand things in late. Okay, leave yourself enough time to make at least a good faith effort on all the regular exercises and hand it in on time. Okay. Um, the final project is a coding assignment on steroids. Okay, it's all programming. Okay, it's an individual assignment. It's not a group assignment. Everybody does the same thing. It's about the size of maybe 2 or 2.5 normal coding assignments. And it's more kind of interrelated, and it tries to pull together the skills from the whole course. Okay, um, that's what that's about. Attendance. The iSchool expects you to attend all the classes. If you're going to miss a class, and that's unavoidable, well, there are recordings of these online classes, and you're expected to play them. Participation is a big part of these classes. And when we get to the grading, you'll see that it's 10% of your grade. Now, 10% is a whole letter grade. It's the difference between a 95 and an 85, or an 85 and a 75. So it's a really big deal. And the way I do this is you earn points for things during the semester, okay? And I keep track of them and I add them up. And at the end of the semester, I look at how many points everybody got, and I do the grading based upon the percentile of how many points, how many participation points you got during the semester. Okay, and I'll show you how the grading works for that in a couple of minutes. So how can you earn these participation points? Well, by doing things that you should really be doing to get value out of the class anyway. Okay. If you make a greetings post to the service desk within the first 2 weeks of the course, you get points. Making a speaking contribution during class, it gets you points. Um, Typing into the chat during class gets you points. Presenting your solution to a coding assignment when we're reviewing the solution, that gets you points. And then when we review the coding assignments, and for a couple of other things, we break out into breakout groups, and one person is always identified to be the spokesperson for the group. They get points, right? So here's where we start getting kind of contracty. And again, I tried to live without this, but it didn't work particularly well. There's a bunch of sections. I'd like you to read all of them. What I'm going to do is just kind of go through the headings, and then I've got a couple of things I highlighted because they're kind of surprising to some people. Okay, so the iSchool and the university have grading policies. I follow them. Okay. Uh, Careful attention to detail is required. Okay. So when your work is graded, Deductions are going to be made for all deviations from the assignment instructions. Some of the deductions will be made for small deviations that may seem insignificant to you. So it's a good practice to carefully check your work against all the instructions and the grading rubric before you submit. Okay? These information professional jobs are very demanding in this regard. Okay? We're the professionals. So the people who rely on us, they're expecting us to be kind of perfectionists. Okay? And that's how we're going to grade your assignments. Assignment resubmissions are not permitted after the deadline. Okay, resubmission of assignments after the deadline will not be permitted for any reason. If you have a reason to get an extension and submit later, well, there's a way to do that, and I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. I've had too many situations in which people have handed in the wrong thing on purpose because they don't have their work done. And then they come back and go, oh, I realized, I handed in the work from last week again this week, and, I had the work done, blah, 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 blah. So they've ruined this opportunity, okay? So I'm going to show you, I have a tutorial on how to submit your work. I'm going to show you how to check your work to make sure you submitted what you think you submitted. Okay, but so if you submit early and then you're talking to a friend and they say, well, did you do such and such? And you go, oh, no, I didn't. And then you say, well, you still got a couple of days. You can resubmit before the deadline. We'll grade the last one, okay? But no resubmissions after the deadline, all right? I regret it, but it's just the only way to have this be fair and manageable. Deadline extensions must be requested before the deadline, okay? I'm pretty reasonable in giving people extensions, okay? So try me. Deductions will be made for late submissions. So the grading rubrics for coding assignments for the final project coding assignments and the final project include substantial deductions for late submissions. So if you don't get an extension, make sure you hand in credible work on time. Assignments submitted too late will not be graded. So we said the coding assignments that are more than 2 weeks late are too late. A final project that's more than a week late is too late. We have to get on with grading. If you have an unusual set of circumstances that has to do with your health or the state of your family or something like that that's getting in your way of getting these things in, contact me. We'll work something out. Grading adjustments will be limited to automatic rounding. Now this is really contract-ish. We're just going to take your score, and if it has a fractional part, then we're going to round either down to a point or up to a point. So if you score 89.4, you're going to get an 89. If you score 89.5, you're going to get a 90. Okay? That's the only adjustments that we're making. Okay, I get people who say, "Wow, if you just, I'm so close to a 90, and 90 would give me an A." And sorry, I can't do it. It's been too long. Too many people have asked, and I just can't. Okay, so the only thing we're going to do is to and we're going to do the kind of rounding that you would imagine that we do when we have fractional grades. Regrading requests made using the service desk will be given fair consideration. So there are times when people hand in things late, um, and then we don't remember to go back and grade it. Hand in a regrading request on the service desk, and we will grade it. There are also times when with every assignment that you get back from the TA or me, there'll be a PDF that explains how we graded it and includes our comments. And if after reading that you think that we missed something or it's unfair, well, open up a ticket. We'll take a look at it. We'll give it a fair look. Extra credit opportunities are not available. Because of the fact that the grading approach that I have is a pretty fair deal, I don't have extra credit opportunities. I'm sorry. So there won't be any of those. Okay, the expected grade for assignment submissions that meet all expectations is 95. So these coding assignments and the final projects have some number of regular exercises. Okay, so a typical coding assignment will have, say, 3 regular exercises and 1 challenge exercise, right? So if you meet all the expectations on the regular exercises, you'll get 95 points. Okay, so the target grade for doing a good job is 95. The challenge exercises are very challenging, okay? And that's how you can get a 96, a 97, a 98, a 99, or 100. Do the challenge exercise, okay? I give more help to students on regular exercises than the challenge ones, right? So a good solid grade in this course is a 95, okay? An outstanding grade in this course is, something above a 95. All right. Coding assignment submissions that meet certain criteria are subject to a minimum score guarantee. That sounds like a contract if you ever heard it. There are, and on these coding assignments, there are 15 points. I'm sorry. There are 16 points for getting it in on time. Okay, so if you're late, the highest you can get is an 84. Okay. But if you hand in your work using the right procedures and you name things right and you zip them up right and you submit them right and you make a good faith effort on all the regular exercises, you'll get an 85. Okay? And there's more to be read here. The participation grades, I've already talked about them. The things that you earn the points for the greetings posts in the first 2 weeks, you get 10 points. Speaking during a class, 2 points for each instance. Chatting during class, 1 point for each instance. Presenting your program when we're discussing the solutions, 5 points. Acting as a spokesperson for your breakout group, 5 points. And we add up all these points, and there's a wide variation in them. Okay? You might find, that the median is 50. The max is like 210. The minimum is 0. Okay, there's really just a tremendous variation in the amount of participation that I get from students. And so what I do is I rank them, okay, by how many points, and I figure a percentile for each of the people, and then I calculate a participation grade from the percentile. With the exception is if you have fewer than 10 points, you get a participation grade of 0. Now remember, you get 10 points for doing the greetings post. Okay, so do the greetings post. There's no way to get 0. Okay, and here's how I translate the percentile rank into a 100-point score. If you're in the 99th percentile, you get a grade of 100. If you're in the 75th percentile, you get a grade of 95. If you're in the 50th percentile, that's the middle, you get a grade of 90. If you're in the 25th percentile, you get a grade of 80. If you're in the 10th percentile, you get a grade of 70. If you have less, if you're lower than the 10th percentile but greater than 10 points, or greater or equal than 10 points, then you get 60. Okay. Okay. So this gives again, if you're just in the middle of all the participators, you get 90. Okay. Okay. Now here's a new section for the current semester, and it has to do with academic integrity. And I'll give you the simple version, and then I'll point out a couple things. The simple version is I'm expecting you to hand in work that you do yourself. Okay. Now, so I'm not expecting you to do joint collaborative efforts with your friends and your neighbors. Okay. Now, is it okay to talk about the work that we're doing for this course? Yeah, it is. Okay. But we can talk about it. We could even sketch out some code on a whiteboard or whatever. But then we go back and we go to our computer and we both write our own code. We type it in. We use our variable names. We use our style. Okay. So I don't want to see highly correlated work. And I've got a system for checking this. I check everybody's work against everybody else's. Okay. And I didn't used to. But then we discovered people who were handing in either the exact same thing or substantially the same thing. Okay. And there are penalties for that. Okay. So you don't want to do that. Now, there are exceptions to your work being all yours and not influenced by anybody else's. And that is, if I give you a starter file, okay, that has some code, you're free to use it as is. A lot of times I say, use this in your project, okay? I'm expecting to get it exactly the way I gave it to you, okay? I just want you to include it in your project so that when we go to test your work, it tests, okay? Okay, so what are we testing? Well, we're testing your sort of integration ability rather than your programming ability there. The other thing is I mentioned that there are tutorials for each exercise, right? So I do the tutorials. Some people follow along on their own machine. Some people don't, right? Some people who follow along on their own machine, when they go to do their exercise, which is similar to the one I did, well, then they take the code that they got from me and they kind of clone it. They turn it into their own and solve a slightly different problem. well, that's okay too, right? Provided that you typed the code in and you changed it around yourself. Okay. So, there's more details here, but we're essentially saying, I guess this paragraph here kind of sums it up. The submission of highly correlated work represents an academic integrity violation for the students who copy the work of others, the copiers, for the students whose work is copied by others. That's often surprising to people. And for students who create and submit a collaborative work when an independent work is expected. An independent work is expected on everything in this course. So please do your work independently and do not put yourself in a position where your work could be submitted by another student. So these situations are fairly rare. They're always sad, and um, sometimes people will say that they didn't realize that the work was going to be copied. Well, one way to be sure that your work is not going to be copied is to not put it in the hands of other people, because you're responsible for not having your work copied. All right, too legalistic, but unfortunately, that's the way of the world. The basis for determining grade, okay? So if you take this course for 4 credit, okay, the participation is going to be 10%. The coding assignments are going to be 45. The final project's going to be 45. So the final project has a big weight. Okay, so even if you have some trouble on some coding assignments, okay, uh, the final project is going to count for a whole lot. So you have the opportunity, to make a comeback on the final project. If you take it for 2, participation is at 10%. The coding assignments are 90%, and you don't hand in the final project. This list of how we translate number grades to letter grades is pretty standard, but I have it in here explicitly. And again, the only thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the scores out of as they come out of the Canvas grade book, and we're going to round them. Okay, and anything from 0 up to 0.49 is going to round down to 0, and anything from 0.50 up to 0.99 is going to round up to the next integer, and that's going to be it. Now, here at the end we have iSchool and university academic policies. And I've got really 2 things to say about these. One is that they're boilerplate. Boilerplate is again a kind of a contracts term, and it means standard copy that they put into contracts. Okay, these are all standard. You should be pretty much seeing all these things in all of the syllabi that you get here at the iSchool. Okay, so that has a kind of boring, I've seen this before aspect. Okay, well, if you have really seen it before and you have really thought these things through, well, good for you. Okay, but these are all pretty important things. Okay, so there's a policy here about incomplete grades. It's harder to get incomplete grades than you think. iSchool academic integrity. There's some pointers here to policies and stuff. Statement of inclusion. We're really serious about inclusion, equity, access, fairness, seeing people as they are for what they can bring. Okay. Okay. Um, and there's some things to click through on to find out some more about how serious we are. Religious observances. Sometimes people whose uh, religion is maybe not the same as most of the people at the university or the majority of people at the university, they're going to have days that are going to conflict with the majority calendar. Well, we've got ways to work that out. Um, Accessibility, okay? We have this DRES organization who works with uh, students with who are otherly abled and helps them find accommodations. iSchool COVID statement. Okay. I know that we're at a low point for COVID right now. We have an online course, so it's probably not an issue for us. But the school is still pretty serious about COVID. So all of these things uh, in this iSchool and university academic policies, give them a read. And I want you to know that if you need help with any of these things, either because there's some opportunity for benefits that you want to be part of, um, or if you're having a problem with any of these things, like you seek fair treatment that you feel that you're not getting. Um, we're serious about all these. I'm a person you can come to who can help. Do I know the most about all these things? I do not. Okay. But I know how to find you the person who does. Okay. So, on one hand, kind of boilerplate, a little boring. On the other hand, very important stuff and stuff that you may need help with. And I'm here to help. Okay. At least here to get you started. Okay, so that's the syllabus. Okay. Now, um, I just want to talk through a couple of more things. Okay. In the first week of class, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have everybody introduce themselves. Okay. You're going to see that there's a wide range of experience here. There are no prerequisites for this course. So you can take this course if you know absolutely nothing about programming at all. Or you can take this course if maybe you're a self-taught Python person. I get some people who have already taken a course before, but it's been years and they haven't used it and they feel like they've lost it. Okay. Um, there's there's a home here for all of you. Okay. And there's a way for all of you to find challenge and opportunity and to learn a lot and have fun and uh, we'll have a lot of fun. We always do. And let's just see. I don't think I talked about what we're going to cover each week. Well, I kind of did. Oh, no, because we did it by chapter. So in this week one, it's mostly introductions and setup. And week two, we have the two introductory chapters that are really about computers and programming and getting started with programming. That's one and two. And chapter three, computing with numbers, that's where we really start getting into the meat of the course. And we're talking about number of values, the difference between integers and floats, for instance. We don't do chapter four. Um, We go on from there, and then we move on to chapter 5, which is about strings, lists, files, and tuples. We do that too. Um, these are data constructs for holding data. Another kind of set of basic building blocks. From that, we go on to chapter 6, defining functions. Functions are containers for code within your program. They're kind of sub-programs, okay? And we a lot of use cases for them. They're very powerful. Um, they're a lot of fun, okay? And then the next week we go on to chapter 7. Chapter 7 is about decision structures. A lot of computer code makes decisions based upon data. You know, if this, we do A, else we do B. Okay, and so we learn a whole bunch of that kind of code in chapter 7. The next week, we cover chapter 8. We've already, one of the ways that we solve problems with computers is we use looping. We do the same group of instructions over and over until some conditions are met. Okay, so in the early chapters, we do some basic looping, like we'll do something like 10 times. Okay, but more complex kinds of looping, like we're looping until the work is done. We have to be able to sense the work being done. We cover that in chapter 8. The next week we work on Zell chapter 11, where we learn more about lists, and we learn about these data structures called dictionaries that are very powerful, and that's a lot of fun. And then the week after that, we're going to cover 2 units. The first one is regular expressions. Regular expressions are kind of a mini programming language that allow us to come up with ways to search for strings within strings. Typical things that we might use them for is finding the records in some kind of a log file that interest us. And then Zell chapter 9 is about simulation and design. It's about writing bigger, more complex programs and how to design and test them. Okay, because we feel that we're ready for that by that point. And let's see, the chapter after that, Severance, chapter 14, we finally learned how to create a custom class in Python. The ones that we concentrate on are the classes that allow us to hold a row from a relational database table, sort of a related group of data facts. Okay? And then the very last unit that we cover in the class is going to be how to use Jupyter notebooks. Jupyter notebooks are covered or used in a lot of other classes at the iSchool, and they're used in a lot of data science applications. But it's really important for people who've had this Python class to kind of understand how the Python that we've learned connects with the kind of work that people do in Jupyter notebooks. And we pull that all together right there. Okay, so that's a lot to do in 12 weeks, but we've got time to do it. It's a lot of fun to learn about. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in the week to come. In the meantime, if you have any questions, just open a ticket on our service desk, and we'll do our best to respond. Looking forward to meeting you next week. Bye-bye.